Welcome to MTV Glow, where bright conversations always flow. This is MTV Glow, people you should know. Welcome to MTV Glow, where you discover the people you should know. I'm Rav Mendiratta, your host, and I help law firms grow using AI and SEO. At MTV Glow, we shine a light on the professionals in our provisors community. And we do this through real conversations that go beyond the title. The goal is simple: build, know, like, and trust through real conversations. Today's guest is MK Palmore, founder and principal advisor at Apogee Global RMS, an enterprise risk management firm helping organizations navigate cybersecurity, physical security, strategy, and leadership challenges. MK brings over 35 years of experience spanning the US Marine Corps, the FBI, and senior executive roles in the private sector. He began his career at the United States Naval Academy, served as a Marine Corps officer, and then later rose to senior leadership roles at the FBI, overseeing one of the world's leading cybersecurity investigative teams. Today, with Apogee Global RMS, MK advises boards and leaders on managing complex risk and building resilient teams who are for forward-looking organizations. Let's dive in and see what makes MK glow. MK, welcome to MTV Glow and welcome to Provisors.
Yeah, thanks, Rav. I appreciate the introduction and appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with you here on this podcast. Thanks.
And the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for making time. I'm so intrigued by your background and Marine Corps, FBI, cybersecurity. These are all very fascinating industry. Well, I shouldn't call them industries, but organizations and roles. So I'm really excited about this podcast. But I like to start really by simplifying things, and I like to do this by asking our guests, how do you explain what you do to a 10-year-old?
Yeah, so what we do at Apogee Global RMS is we help small to medium-sized businesses understand what the potential impact of any kind of significant event might be to them in the technology space. I like to keep it focused on the technology space because that's a simplification I think that even a 10-year-old could understand, and they are growing up nowadays with more technology than certainly we had in our generation. And it's helpful, I think, to get the message focused around where it is that we can really be helpful. Our tagline is taking people, process, and technology to the next level. I feel there's an ecosystem around all three of those concepts, and Apogee Global provides solutions and services addressing technological issues, people issues, leadership development strategy. And so we try and make sure that we're coming with a whole proposition that's going to help our clients in many different areas. But technology and technology transformation happens to be the pivot point that provides us an entry where we think we can be helpful to folks based on our experiences.
Interesting. So technology, people, and processes. That's awesome. So every profession has its myths, and I'm sure cybersecurity has a lot of myths. Previously, we had Ed who given us a different flavor of what he does. But what do you think are some of the misconceptions you see in your clients about what you do, and what is the reality behind it?
Yeah, so one of the biggest myths about cybersecurity is sort of the gatekeeping that we do as an industry to keep other people out of it. We make it seem so mysterious that it would appear that only folks with deep programming or technological backgrounds can survive in the technology or cybersecurity space, and nothing could be further from the truth. This is all teachable information. You can learn this information, you can acquire the information through experience. And when you combine experiential learning with academic learning, and there's no shortage of opportunities to learn in the cybersecurity space, you can actually acquire a skill set that can help you be able to thrive in the technology space and the wider industry. It's just a matter of finding the thing that you happen to be good at, that you're passionate about, and also intersects with where cybersecurity is headed. And now, with the advent of artificial intelligence, you know probably more than I do. that quite frankly, changes are coming to the cybersecurity industry, and they're coming rapidly and fast in terms of how our technology is deployed, our ability to assess the risk associated with using these technologies. AI has been a significant game changer, and so that puts us in a whole new position to deliver a value proposition to any customer that we may have. And so the biggest challenge is overcoming sort of the mystique of cybersecurity and really getting down to the basics and fundamentals, which is what we try and profess when we get in front of clients, that we're going to be using tried and true best principles, concepts, frameworks, things that are going to allow us to then go back to them and say, here's what our observations were of your posture. Here's how we would recommend that you move to fix it over a predetermined time, 6 months, a year, 18 months. And oh, by the way, here are some partners that can help you implement these recommendations along the way. And so it's a very strategic touch that we offer to our clients, but we find it to be useful and in many instances impactful to their transformation journeys.
That's very interesting. So the clients, I mean, I've heard this, like you also said, that people think that cybersecurity, that means they would have to understand coding and all of that. And you've experienced that as a myth. So I'm glad you simplify it for them and make it palatable. So that's awesome. And since you touched on AI, I usually bring AI in the conversation a little later on, but let's talk about it, right? It has changed so many industries, and your industry and mine in a big way. What would you say are some of the top things which have changed the way you do things because of AI?
Yeah, so I'm rather bullish on the topic, as I'm sure you are. My experience to date has been that it's allowed me to be, as a business leader and as someone who evaluates risk, infinitely more productive than I think I would be under normal circumstances. It allows me to digest information a whole lot faster, make judgments, and then hopefully get my hands wrapped around issues so that I can then make them presentable to clients. And in the cybersecurity space, I think it's been a game changer because it's moving cybersecurity towards a much more proactive stance in nature, which I think the industry, quite frankly, has suffered from since its inception. It's always been, the expression is, you don't want to be put back on your heels, right? You don't want to be always in response to something that's happening. You'd like to get to a proactive stance at some point so that you can be proactive and potentially, a little bit more aggressive in terms of your protections and the practices that you implement in order to better secure the enterprise that you're responsible for protecting as a practitioner. And I think that AI, for the first time, allows practitioners, cybersecurity practitioners in particular, to move faster than they have before at making human-centric determinations and decisions that will allow them to, probably for the first time since this battle started, be at least head-to-head with the adversaries in terms of their capabilities. So that's one side of the coin. The flip side of the coin, of course, is that the adversaries now have available to them technology that will allow them to move faster. So it's a little bit of hopefully we'll move towards a stalemate of some kind. But I think that as long as we are making smart decisions about AI implementation in terms of cybersecurity tooling, again, always including that human element, but using it to make things move in a fashion it's a lot more quicker than it has been historically. I think that the possibilities are potentially endless. And I think that, I'm sure that you'll speak to some in the industry that will tell you that potentially what we could see in the next 5 to 10 years is a cybersecurity apparatus that's capable of operating almost autonomously on its own. And I think that's where the industry ultimately is going to head.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and I'm glad that you covered both sides of the coin. I recently read the book the Coming Wave from Mustafa Suleiman, who's the CEO of Microsoft AI, and that book, it was mostly on the negative side of things. So I'm glad to hear that you started with the positive, and I'm glad you're approaching this whole thing with using AI to build a proactive defense. That's an awesome strategy. Now, you've served in the defense forces, and thank you so much for your service. Now, moving from defense to a private organization, For a lot of us, there are challenges which keep us up or get us out of the bed, which we want to solve for our clients. How has that changed for you, working in the defense forces to organizations? And what is the current challenge which excites you about what you do?
Yeah, so ultimately, and if you listen to enough of what I say on the landscape, you'll hear me come back to the subject of leadership time and time again. I think ultimately, no matter how much I lean into the technology space, no matter how much I lean into the risk management space, at the end of the day, everything for me is about leadership. Developing leaders, helping organizations define and understand for themselves what that looks like. Because I feel like if you put the right people in place, you can there are no limits to essentially what you can accomplish. And I think that we get that part, I won't say wrong for the most part, but I don't think we're as diligent about that process as we claim to be. And so I want to help organizations get their hands wrapped around the leadership component, and I want to provide much needed guidable advice around technology transformations, how it can help you, and the things that you need to do to ensure that you're doing it in a safe and secure fashion. When I combine those things, it presents to me the service lines ultimately for Apogee Global, which, as you mentioned in the tee up, our pointy tip of the spear is the cybersecurity portion, because I think most organizations need help with that if they're willing to admit it. When they bring in folks like myself who come from, yes, an extensive public service background, but also a deep enterprise background. When you bring in folks like myself, we're able to give you an unvarnished view and look, having seen across the board, across nearly every business vertical and globally for that matter, um, what it takes to really build a safe and secure security team, a security apparatus, one that functions and will allow you to grow and scale your enterprise, which is the goal of every business today. And once we're able to come in and provide very pointed advisory work and solutions to them, I think that we position businesses to think about what it means to take a step into the future. Deep experience is important, but I also believe that the SMB space, which is the space that we target, has been, I will say, not ignored by the big folks on the landscape, but there are many enterprise companies with deep experience in security and things that don't even pay attention to the SMB space because the revenue generation is not there for them to make it worth their time, or at least they don't put enough effort into it. And so we feel there's a particular sweet spot where small to medium-sized businesses, all of whom are technologically focused, even if they're not, even if technology is not part of their core competency, every firm operating today as a global entity has some kind of technology apparatus that they need to secure and think about. And for most organizations, their growth and scaling has to do with some kind of technology. They're either riding technology to that growth and scale, or it's a core component of what it is that they're trying to bring to market and offer to folks. And we want to play a role in helping them get their hands wrapped around that and what that looks like. And so when I'm able to combine my public sector experience and my private sector experience, again, that's a sweet spot for me that I think I'm able to operate in effectively and provide impact.
That's very cool, and I love the focus you have on small businesses because you're right. I mean, leadership within small businesses is often an area we don't think too much about. So thank you for doing what you do. Now you're new to provisors. How can fellow provisors members better support you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm approaching the provisors networking. First of all, have been always throughout my career a firm believer in networking. I don't think that I've had a lot of great opportunities that I've been able to take advantage of, both in my public sector career and private sector career. All of those opportunities were presented to me by people in my network. There was never a great opportunity or a great experience that I've had that I just stumbled upon or just submitted a resume and happened to get picked up for some great opportunity. It's all about networking. So I come to the table a firm believer. I want to make sure that I'm in a position to help others. I enjoy that aspect of it, like pointing people towards opportunities for themselves or making a connection that turns into something fruitful for someone else. And I feel that as long as I'm approaching it with that attitude, that in kind will be returned to me as well. if someone sees an opportunity either in their own business setting or one that they're aware of where they think that a business could benefit from our advice around technology transformation and leadership transformation, if I get on the call, I can find the pain points and I can absolutely execute. So it's just a matter of identifying those referral opportunities. And again, for me, it's a two-way street. I want to make sure that I'm contributing for as much as I expect to get out of the program as well.
Awesome. That's a great approach towards any networking organization and especially
Yeah.
providers. But let's talk about things beyond work. So outside
Yeah.
work, what are your hobbies like? Tell us some stories which will help us see the other side of MK.
Yeah. So I'm a husband and father of three. My kids are at a variety of stages in their life, and so supporting my wife and helping make sure that they mature into the young adults and people that they're supposed to be are our prime focus for us as a family. And in addition to that, I have like a minor hobby, which is I'm a hobbyist musician, which I dabble in. You can't see behind me, but there's an acoustic drum set that sits behind me here in my home office that, if I'm lucky and I get a couple hours on the weekend, it gives me a lot of relief just to wail on the drums for a little bit. So I've been a musician for most of my life, a hobbyist musician, and have a very eclectic music taste. So it's a point of enjoyment for me for sure.
That's awesome. I would have never guessed that. So drum set, that's cool.
Yeah.
And you should team up with Richard. And I don't know if you have heard about this yet, but there is a yearly competition of bands in Southern California. And last year, Northern California folks were the winners. So definitely connect.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I'll
But
follow
this,
up on that.
yeah, this was great, MK. Thank you so much for jumping on. And it was really great to get to know you. And I'm sure our fellow providers members would enjoy this conversation as well. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Rob.